Urbana-Champaign, which is number 2 best university of the world, and he got that admit, of course, from us, and he did his extraordinary work on SOP also. He got 321, he got 7.5 in IELTS, and because of his good score also, he got into this university. But after he went there, it was even more difficult to get job. So how to do those, how to get jobs, that is what we have kept the topic today, so that our students may not have the same problems that he has faced, and you will come to know about the options that you have there, so that it will be easier for you to get jobs. So keeping that in mind, we have organized this seminar. I'm sure it will help you, and you are most welcome, Jagrat Jariwala, and the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. So going forward, today's topic, how to get jobs in the USA. It is indeed difficult, just because of various aspects of just studying here and having visa issues and all of that lined up against us. But having said that, it's the best place to work. It's the melting pot, so to speak. You will find folks from all over the world here. So gives you a great exposure. So to work in this environment sort of prepares you to work anywhere else. So with that, let's just dive into it. The way I want to talk about today's presentation is almost like a funnel. Let's just talk about general broad items first, and of course with jobs in the back of our mind, and then dive into the minutia of what are different jobs available in different times of your career. So first, let's just talk about types of luck. So for types of luck, one of my favorite VC, Naval Ravikant, says there are like 4 types of luck. The first one is blind luck. So if you are a computer designer, or I'm sorry, graphics designer, and somebody starts a business and they want a flyer, you just end up meeting them. Not because of anything that you have done, not because of any activities or items you have consciously tried to accomplish, but you just find them. That's blind luck. We don't have any control on it, as in the participants do not have any control on it. So for this presentation, we're not gonna dive deeper into that. The second kind of luck is exposure, education related luck. So now this is more geared towards our presentation. You can do a lot of things to maximize your exposure. For example, if you network well, if you get to the right people, if you just work hard in your subjects and be really, really smart at it, things like that. For exposure or education, think about it this way. If a person does 10 times more networking than you, works 10 times harder than you, then that person is definitely going to get some traction in the industry. Somewhere, somebody is going to notice. Exposure or education related luck is something we're going to talk about. Next up is experience related luck. So this is what you develop, your intuitions, you develop a mental model and understand how the world works and leverage that. So for example, if you are a really good, if you have a really good understanding about global trade, and you realize, oh, Russia is going to attack Ukraine, or they attacked Ukraine, one of the aspects that's going to be affected the most is import and export of oil. And so the prices of those commodities are going to go high, sky high. Now you can leverage all that information and get a job. You can leverage all that information, get lots of money. So that's experience related luck. Let's not talk about it right now in this presentation, because that would require experience. My understanding is most of you are just starting with your career. The last is expertise related luck. That's something we'll talk about today. You will be coming to the US to develop some kind of expertise in your field, of course. But so the idea there is the example that I was told when I was explained these different kinds of luck, which is apt, is if you are a deep sea diver and you are one of the very few people who can go to the depths in the ocean. And now if somebody out of luck finds a sheep, a treasure sitting on the ocean floor, now they cannot get it. They will need your expertise to get it. So even though somebody else was lucky, you get part of that luck. So that's expertise related luck. Over the course of presentation, I would ask you to classify different things in the different types of luck. And just keep these 4 types of luck in mind. And of course, multiple things can be classified in multiple categories. So we'll talk about those as the presentation progresses. So here I want to talk to you about the timeline. Once you land in the US, I just say landed at JFK as a proverbial airport. But so you land at JFK, then you graduate. That's the other milestone. Then you get your H-1B selected. That's the second milestone. After that, life is a little steady. You are generally expected to have a job or started a business, whatever. So we are not going to talk about anything after that. So this is more or less your 4 to 5 years after coming to the US, which is very, very heavy, very volatile in terms of getting jobs. So once you land in the US, you have to complete 2 semesters in the university before you qualify for any internships or co-ops. During this time, you only can get 20 hours of work permit. CPT is curriculum practical training. You only have 20 hours of work permit. The expectation is you study, and then during that time, you can work a few hours. There are different kinds of jobs that you can pursue here. First is your teaching assistantship. Second is research assistantship. Those are very self-explanatory. Third one is graduate assistantship. So if you are helping with day-to-day activities of running an institute, then you qualify in the third category. Fourth is your typical jobs on campus. You can wait tables at a cafeteria. You can work as a chef in a restaurant, things like that. Now, the fourth kind of jobs are really in the gray area, and you really need to get enough information about those before you start. The point I'm trying to make here is different universities will classify different jobs as campus jobs. A subway in a particular location in your campus can be classified as a campus job, and certain subway just 5 minutes out across the street would not. So that's something that you have to talk to folks who have been staying there, your immigration help that your university is going to provide. folks like that. Once you go through your 2 semesters, then you get your internships and co-ops. So for example, you are in the US and you come to the US in the fall of 2022. So that's in August, September of 2022. You go through your fall semester, you go through your spring semester. So fall is January up to December, and then spring is from January up to May. After that, you have like 2-3 months of break. That's when you can or you qualify to do industry internships, and then after that you qualify to do industry co-ops. The difference between internships and co-ops. So internships are usually smaller in duration. It's your summer internship. However, co-ops are internships, essentially internships that you do as a part of your curriculum training. Meaning you can, after your 2 semesters in a university study, you can work for a full semester. So let's just say your first semester, fall of 23, spring of 20, fall of 22, spring of 23 are done. Then you get an internship maybe, and then after that, for the fall of 2023, if you still are working, that is classified under co-op. For CPT, there is no limitation on the work hours. However, your CPT plus your OPD times are interrelated, and we will talk about it. So once you are done with your graduation, you are essentially qualified to go in the industry and work. So you have OPT, 12 months of OPT, and then you have STEM extension, only for folks from science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. If your program is a part of STEM, then you get 24 months of additional time, additional OPT. OPT is optional practical training. That's your work essentially after once you come to the United States on your student visas, you are qualified for these OPTs, which are essentially your work permit. Now, this 12 months OPT and CPT are both interrelated. So if you're working on CPT, and for CPT, you can only you can only use that for 12 months. After that, it sort of chips into your OPT. So for example, if you have pursued 18 months of CPT, then you only get 6 months of OPT. And of course, for STEM students, it's an addition of 12 months to 24 months. Okay, so one other point I wanted to try to communicate here is, considering you have 36 months of a work permit, you have 3 years of work permit, so you qualify for 3 H-1B trials. Once you qualify, H-1Bs are applied by the employer. So they can apply for your H-1B 3 times. More often than not, you would find folks do get selected in the 3 trials, and you have your H-1B, and the life changes after that. In the rare case that you don't, there are ways and means that you can employ to still live in United States and work in United States. That's beyond the scope of this presentation, but we can definitely talk about it if you run into an issue like that. So moving on, why focus on jobs? So you've come to the United States, you pursued your master's or bachelor's. Why even go to the job market? So one of the big reason is difference in academic and practical knowledge. whatever you learn in your through your university, it's gonna be a lot different. Just in terms of it's really focused. Meaning, when you're looking at a problem that you are trying to solve in a university, your problem statements are going to be very limited. There'll be lots of assumptions already in place. While in practical world, there are just so many moving wheels. And because of that, it gives you a different kind of challenge, and you need different kinds of skill set to succeed. So experiencing that is going to be super important for a successful life. Next is return on investment. If you have paid so much in tuition fees and whatnot, you do want return on investment. I think one aspect of campus jobs that I forgot to touch upon was if you are pursuing a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, you can get a free ride. Free ride meaning you get free tuition, and the college also pays you some amount of money to work for them. That's the perfect place to be at. So in that case, you're not investing a whole lot, but the problem with TAs and RAs is it's rare. Next up is exposure. So exposure is you just develop, you just get to know a lot of things while on a job. So I'll give you my example. I'm a civil engineer. And what happened there?
Somebody's doing it.
Well, you can read it. So I guess let's ignore that and move on. I was talking about exposure. So you can, once you are working in the world, you get to know about how different things interact. One of my principals, who has about 35 years of experience in the field, would often tell me that once you graduate, the management aspect of it, the financial management, the people management, the compliances is 70% of your work, and 30% corresponds to your technical know-how. And I'm a consultant. I'm a geotechnical engineering consultant. So very technically heavy field still. So that exposure is amazing. Lastly, the point I want to make here is developing mental models and judgments. Those, like we were talking about in the Lux slide, is going to be super important for you to leverage the information that you have, or the information that you have worked on already, to use in the day-to-day world to be successful. The example I would like to give here is a civil engineer or a computer engineer, doesn't matter, who has worked in a closed sandbox or in the academia would not be so thoroughly developed as far as intuition or judgments go as compared to a person who has been working in the field. So if I design a building, I can design 100,000 building on paper, but that doesn't give me any confidence. What will give me confidence is I design a building and it stands for 5 years and I know that it works. So that not a lot of people can get just by sitting on a desk in the in your lab. Okay, so at this point, I would like to, let me find someone. Gonna ask, let's do Hemil Shah. Can you unmute Hemil Shah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, Emil, how are you?
Hi.
So let me ask you a question. Exposure. What kind of luck do you think that is? Let me just go back to the slides. luck slide.
Yeah.
All right, exposure is what we are talking about. Hemant, what do you think? Is it blind luck, or you have your
No,
exposure or agitation luck? So that probably answers your question.
When someone has doing hard work greater than 10 times of mine, and he gets more chances to get job.
Right. Yes. So exposure, I would classify, of course, as a big chunk in the second exposure agitation related luck. But then again, I will classify some of it into expertise because you need exposure to develop expertise. All right. So the last item on the why do you need to get jobs was to develop mental models. And for that, let's just find. Let's talk to Neil. Can you unmute Neil?
Yes.
Hey Neil, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, good.
Perfect. So what do you think your judgment, developing judgment through a job, through experience and exposure, what kind of luck do you think that falls under? Do you think it's blind? Do you think it's exposure agitation luck? Do you think it's experience luck or expertise related?
Yeah, I think experience related luck.
Experience related luck, definitely. One other thing, so there are multiple answers to it. You also develop an expertise in a particular field by the exposure, by the experience. And expertise, of course, you can develop expertise using both academic knowledge. If you are really good at modeling on a particular software, then that's definitely an expertise. But then also with a good amount of time, good amount of learning in a particular field, you will develop expertise. Okay. So that was, let's just go back to the slide. Why focus on jobs? And now let's talk in detail about different kinds of jobs. So campus jobs, the kind of campus jobs like we talked about are four kinds: TA, teaching assistantships, research assistantships, graduate assistantships, and your typical working at a cafeteria, being a chef kind of jobs. Is there a way to remove this? I thought it was going to be only in one slide.
The person who has done it, please remove the scratch.
All right. So by the time that goes on, let's just carry on. Four types of campus jobs. Challenges while you're getting a campus job. First, information about the job. You will find it really difficult to find a timely information about an exceptional job. So let me give you an example. One of my friends, when I was at UIUC, got a graduate assistantship, which was qualified to get him tuition waiver. And all he had to do was to sit around and babysit audiovisual equipments of classrooms. And rarely was there a case wherein a audiovisual equipment was malfunctioning. So those are your mics, and those are your cameras, and those are your projectors. And he got a free ride, so thousands of dollars saved on tuition, plus he got some amount of money. All of that, not a lot of people got a chance to apply for that job. It's a question of finding the information when the job is available and just moving on it. Second, is resume. Now, resume is going to be a big thing, and you will find resume in all the three aspects. So your campus jobs, then your internships, and then your industry jobs after you graduate. You will find it as a constant on all the jobs. So resume is really important because, for example, if you are applying for a retail job, you want to be a cashier, you want to sell something, and most of your experience you see or you show is related to programming, that's a bad idea right off the bat. So to gear your resume towards campus jobs is going to be really, really different and a different ball game than your typical resume in your industry field. So getting the resume right is going to be super important. Role fit. Now, role fit is an important aspect to consider. It's a challenge, not as big as the other two, but just owing to the culture in India, you typically would not, and of course there will be exceptions. Folks have not worked worked on jobs like waiting tables and delivering newspapers and whatnot, which is very different than in America. The culture is such. After a particular point in time, 16 years old, if you are in the US, you do look for jobs and you go through the experience. You work at a retail store. None of us would have, at least that's my presumption. So for a lot of jobs, you would not fit and somebody else would be way more uh, uh, geared towards it. So that's something to consider. And we'll talk about it, how to overcome that as well. Language proficiency. So this is going to be, if you take a few things from this presentation, I want this to be one of those. TOEFL and IELTS, like for GRE, I understand you work hard to get a good score because that is super important to get into a good university. And we tend to take TOEFL and IELTS a little less seriously. Those are just a minimum benchmark that you need to create or you need to go through before you qualify for a university. Now that's a part of it, but you would find for teaching assistantships, language proficiency is looked at. So if you have less than I don't quote me on the numbers, but I think it is on TOEFL less than 24 in speaking, that's going to be a problem. You would qualify for the university at much lower scores. But if you want to be a teaching assistant, then you need 24 marks on speaking. So you really need to put in the hard work for even in TOEFL and IELTS exams. Now, these are some of the challenges you're going to face while getting a campus job. How do you mitigate it? So tips, network. Network is going to be a constant in the next 3 slides. And we are going to talk about networking in different aspects. And we'll touch upon tools to network and different ways in which you should network when you are looking for a campus job, and which is different than when you're looking for a permanent job and when you're looking for an industry internship. So networking in this case, the idea that I'm trying to convey here is you network with your seniors. And when I say seniors, I mean folks who are studying in a particular university. Before you, so for example, if you get an admit to a university, let's call it NYU. Now, if you have an admit there, you need to reach out to any and everybody that you could at the university. How do you do that? The tools for this kind of networking is your typical Facebook, typical Instagram, all your social networking sites. You want to know everybody, and I understand you will just jive well with certain people, but I would still strongly suggest you to talk to everybody and keep a good rapport. Because a lot of challenges, for example, information about the jobs, those are the people who are going to get you that information. About resumes, they will tell you what kind of jobs are available and what they are looking at, just because they have experience there. Next up is keeping tabs on college employment portal. A lot of colleges now, and most of colleges now, have their employment portal for campus jobs. They want really bright minds to fill their jobs, and we are here when we are working, when we are studying, and if you are, especially if you are a graduate student, you would have a little bit of time on your hand. So you do want those jobs. So it just is a no-brainer to keep tabs on their employment portal. But one thing I would suggest you to do is to have email alerts set up for all those campus jobs. It's a game changer, because if you get timely information about a job and you apply at a reasonable time and you are in the first few people whose resume they receive, that you just maximize your chances of getting into getting yourself a job. Finding asymmetries. This is another point I want to communicate. One of the major points, I mean. So when if you're a computer science major student and you're going to a particular university, you can get away with campus jobs which are not from your field of expertise. Not a lot of people who are going from India or other parts of the world come to the university knowing different languages. And this is really important for a big university like UIUC or Ohio State or UC Berkeley, where you have number of departments. You can find yourself a job in the Hindi department or a Gujarati department or a Sanskrit department. Something like that you should keep an eye for. You should network with people currently in the university to figure out where these asymmetries lie. Because in a general job of a cashier or a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, you're going to face a lot of competition. All of that competition goes away if you find an asymmetry like that. So just keep an open mind when you are trying to get a campus job. English language exam for TA application, right? So I would have scared you a little bit with your language proficiency tests. However, there is a backdoor to it. If you get through an English language exam, that typically happens in the first couple of months, and most probably in the fall semester. Once you are there, you give that exam, and even if you have low scores in speaking in your TOEFL and IELTS, you still qualify to become a teaching assistant. Not everybody would know about this. Again, you would need a good network to figure out when this is happening, where this is happening. You need to be really, really conscious and make enough effort during your um, um, orientation seminars and whatnot that typical universities attend or arrange. You have to attend it and you have to consciously digest information. It's going to be really easy for you to get a pizza slice from the orientation and just go your merry way. But I would strongly suggest you to stay there and digest the information, because all of that is going to be related to your campus jobs. Okay, so coming back to maximizing luck, let's find somebody now. Talk about Kenal Patel. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
How are you doing, Kenal?
I'm fine, sir.
Okay, so question for you. If you, one other tip, networking, what kind of luck do you think you maximize by networking? So you remember those
Sorry.
4 kinds? It's blind luck, expertise related, experience related, and exposure and agitation related. I think I messed up the
Sir,
order.
actually, I am coming little bit late, so I don't know about the, lux.
Okay, never mind. So I'll just give you a brief overview. There are 4 kinds of luck that we talked about, and for the benefit of everybody, I guess, who have.
We have a person who we are in the class also, and one of our students would like to answer that question.
Sure, go ahead.
Hello, sir. My name is Shaili Agrawal.
Shaili Agrawal.
Hey, Shaili.
I, my networking,
So,
I would prefer an experience-related luck, because by asking different people about their experience, I can think about campus jobs and work on it.
definitely, experience related luck is also you do maximize that for sure. However, the way I'm classifying it, there is, and of course, these kind of things do appear in different luck buckets. So Shelly, do you think you can classify it into another bucket, another luck that you might maximize by just networking? Again, I'll just repeat, it's blind luck, dumb luck, then agitation and exposure related luck, then it's experience related luck and expertise related luck. Shelly, do you think you can classify? You think any other bucket it fills?
Yeah, so for me, it is exposure-related luck, because
Right. So go ahead.
yeah, from them I can get few points related their exposure of different jobs, such as if they are doing any job in campus. So they can tell me that by doing this particular job, what
You are breaking up a little bit here, but I think you got the gist. I heard some of it, but I think you got the gist. You are right. In terms of getting exposure, networking is an amazing tool. So moving on.
We have 10 more minutes, and then we want question answers also.
I see. Okay, so I'll just run through important aspects of the other slides, and then we can talk about your questions and answers. I think that will be more beneficial. I agree. Okay, so internships and co-ops. Those are the internships and co-ops that you get after you have performed or gone through 2 semesters in the university. So challenges, field dependent, location dependent. So those two sort of goes together. So if you are working in, or if you're studying in, let's say UIUC, I'll give you my example because it sort of has it is at a spectrum, other side of the spectrum, which will be able to communicate the point really well. UIUC is it's located in Urbana and Champaign. And to give you perspective, your typical population there is 80,000 people, out of which 40,000 people are students. So when you're looking for an internship, you are first of all competing with 40,000 people. Second, you only have 40,000 people working there. So it becomes very difficult to land a job there. So and also, depending on what part of country you are in, different industries are out there. So if you know of Ford or GM, all of those are located in Detroit. So if you are in that region and if you are a civil engineer, it's going to be a little difficult for you as opposed to a mechanical engineer. So the point I'm trying to make here is your internships and co-ops are going to be a little difficult to find. It's going to be at different locations. It's going to be very field dependent. It's like India. There are, for example, if you're in Surat, it's very easy to get exposure in textiles or diamond industry. And the same way here, if you are in Detroit, you get more automobiles. You are in California, you get more IT related jobs, programming related jobs. So it's field dependent and local location dependent. Limited opportunities. So think about it in terms of your employer. Your employer is hiring you. You are there. You're going to be there for 3 months to 6 months, depending on if you're pursuing an internship or a co-op. If you're pursuing in any case, you are there for only a very small period of time. So we would train you, an employer would train you, but you'll go in 3 months. So limited opportunities in terms of we would not, generally people would get exposure to things, but they would not get trained a whole lot just because you're going to go. So that limits the opportunities. Transient cost. This is something that out of experience I've learned, and you should keep in mind. If you are working or if you are studying in a university, let's say you are studying in Kansas State University, you get a job in New York City. Now, going there is a lot of money. Renting an apartment there is a lot of money. Working there, even travel wise, it's a little bit of money because in New York City, you get public transportation. Now think about it the other way. If you are from New York, if you're studying in New York, you're going to Kansas, you're not going to get a lot of travel options. And and you will require a car. You would, of course, if it's a paid internship, you will cover that cost, but it would come at an early price tag. So something to keep in mind. Tips, network right. So now networking changes from your Facebook and Instagram related networking to a little more professional networking. This is when you might have gotten some industry contacts, folks that have come to speak to you during different events. A lot of companies here would go to different universities to give a technical presentation. They earn some brownie points, and they also capture a student base for their products. So it's if they also want to hire you more often than not. So networking during those events, plus the LinkedIn aspect of the professional world becomes a major player here. So getting your LinkedIn profile right, talking to the right people on LinkedIn, commenting on the right people's post, that's going to be important here. Next is follow-up. Now, that's something that folks generally lack. And it's one of the major aspects to succeed. It will add a different paradigm to your networking. For example, if you have met somebody on a seminar or in a conference, you want to follow up with an email or with a LinkedIn request, just talking to them about a field that they like. And during your introduction, it can be as simple as, hi, blah. We met at this particular event, and it was great talking to you about blah, blah, and blah. Looking forward to connecting with you. And that should be it. He will or she will remember and make you your contact, make you their contact. And if you keep on following up, if you keep in touch with them, it's going to be a good beneficial ride for you. So follow up a major thing folks should do. Career fairs. Career fairs sort of goes in both internships as well as your industry jobs. So with career fair, it's different from India and it's different from US. So I have done my bachelor's from India. My job placement happened through campus, and the way it works out in India is you do your bachelor's or you do your coursework, and companies come to your university and they find you and they give you jobs. That doesn't happen in the US, or that's not the norm. Career fair is an opportunity for you to interact with industry personals. So again, it dives into networking and follow. You talk to them, and then you reach out to them later on a social networking in professional networking website or through email, and you keep in touch with them. So at the time when you want a job, they are there. These career fairs, you should attend all the career fairs because it's great exposure. You should make a list of companies that you want to target and target those. And then lastly, you should do your homework before you go to a career fair. Who's coming? What are they interested in? You can find all of that on social media and professional networking sites. So LinkedIn, Facebook, you should do all the research. So if I'm at a career fair and somebody is talking to me about history, especially from 4th century BC to 4th century AD, I can go on and on about it. And if I find a fellow who is interested in the same ideas and same aspects of history, you have gotten yourself a really good contact with professors. That's going to be a big thing. So professors are going to be a big part of your 2-3 semesters that you're going to be studying. You should keep really good contacts. You should try and impress them. You should have a cordial relationship with them. And when you are going to go for a career fair, you should tell your professor about it and ask him to recommend. Because that a few good words from your professor is going to be a difference between a success and a failure. So keep a very good tabs on what the professors like and keep them impressed. And so this brings us to the last slide of the presentation: full-time industry jobs. And that also comes with its challenges, and I'll run you through some of the tips. Culture shock. I know we are running late, so let's just talk about culture shock really quick. It's stage 2 of your culture shock. You get outside of your comfort zone, outside of the university environment, and you're talking to a lot of people. They will use colloquial language, which it's going to be very difficult for me or you to understand. For example, US has a lots of Italian population. You might know this. There is this thing called el dente. That means it's when you're making your pasta, you keep it, you boil it just enough so that it's cooked, but you don't make it soggy. El dente is making it hard. The other aspect of it is touching base. That just means folks do understand your question, but they don't have an answer for it right now. They will talk to you again later. That's a American football analogy. Those kind of things are going to be a challenge in your communication. Lack of experience. More often than not, people would pursue their bachelor's and whatnot, maybe have a year or two worth of experience, and then go do their master's. However, when they're here, they would compete with professionals who have like 5-6 years of experience and then pursuing their master's. So that's going to keep you at a disadvantage. Accommodation and moving. That's another aspect. We touched upon it in the internship. So I'm not gonna talk more about it. Limited opportunities, visa status. Now this is a big item as well. You would have constraints on where you work during your after you graduate in your optional practical training period. It has to be related to your field of study, so that provides a little bit of constraint. You also have time limits. There are ways and means to go about it, but no employer wants to deal with all of that. Having said that, things have become really easy in understanding, in communication and whatnot lately, but there are still constraints. And if anybody tells you you are at the same level, you start at the same foundation level as any other American, they are wrong. Initial costs, that is also a part of accommodation moving. Plus, if you need a car, you have to buy a car, which comes at a price tag. All of that adds up. Interviews. So during interviews, this sort of rounds back to your cultural shock, you just lack of colloquial terms or know-how of colloquial terms, which is going to put you at a disadvantage. Interviews here, it's similar and it has its own challenges. When I say similar, I mean similar to an interview you would do in India, but in here you will need a lot more domain knowledge than in India. Salary negotiation. This is another cultural aspect which folks typically overlook, but is a major player. If you are from India or any other country where opportunities are limited, salary negotiation is something that you would not try to do. Meaning, if there are 10,000 people fighting for one job, when you are given that job, you would take it. As opposed to here, the fight it changes from time to time. But at this point in time, if you look at the industry right now, you would want to negotiate your salary. It's just lots of work and not a lot of people available. It's a perfect time to negotiate for a raise, for if you're getting started, for a better salary and better package. Something to keep in mind while you are working or to get a job and in the process. Virtual onboarding. So that's a COVID related line item. Of course, the world is changed now and there are lots of virtual jobs. Just starting to work on it has its own challenges, similar to those in India. So it's there. I'm just not gonna talk about it in the benefit of time. Tips, US movies and shows. Something that you should be watching right now. It's gonna be interesting. First of all, it's entertaining. And also will give you a lot of cultural background to lots of saying or your colloquial terms. The way I would want you to watch movies and shows is once you watch it, you don't understand something, you Google it. If you're just watching it, that's going to be useful, but not as useful if you Google it and get yourself acquainted with all the terminologies. Internships in India. You should be doing it and you would be doing it. That's my understanding. However, you should choose your internships. You should be pursuing companies who have offices in US as well. Also, you should be looking at companies which are in India but have a very good standing in the US. Again, all of that dives back into networking and knowing the right people and talking to right people. Know the rules. Now that's a big one. If you are out here studying and working, You should know how many hours you can work because there are limitations to it when you are pursuing campus jobs. You should know how much time you have to work. The CPD and OPD have very strong stipulations. You should also know how much time you can stay unemployed and take risk of moving jobs and whatnot. All of that super important. Mentorship programs. So that's a big one. One of the few things that you should be taking with you in this presentation. How do you get mentorships? So there are a lot of industry related or industry organizations which have branches in the university. American Society of Civil Engineering, IEEE for electronics engineers, as well as computer science engineers. All of those industry organizations would have a mentorship program. Go for it. This is a tracked and a formed up mentorship program. However, you can also find mentors through LinkedIn and just talking to them, asking them questions, following up, keeping in touch. And those are the people who are going to pull you from your university and give you a job. Close contact with the professors. Again, it's the same thing. They will help you with mentors. They will help you with good recommendations. They will help you in a lot of ways if you keep them impressed and if you have a good working relationship. And I guess with that, I will end my presentation, end my one-way conversation, and open it up for any questions.
Online, those who have joined online can write the questions in chat box, and I am taking some questions here from here. Those who are offline. Any questions? How many pages of resume should they be writing?
That's a good question. I did not cover that. 1 page. If you are looking for a job, 1 page resume.
Same for campus, internship, and industry. Same page, number of page.
Yes, same for campus. So you would want a CV of multiple pages if you are applying for a doctoral program or in academia, or meaning if you want to become a professor and whatnot. But as far as industry go, 1 page resume.
Okay. Anything else you want to ask? No questions? Either you have understood everything or then everything went wrong. Career fair. So what do you want to know?
Actually, what was
Fine, I think you can you see the chat, Jagrat?
I can. Hi. So Himanshi Gandhi says, hi. So as you said, many people like work experience after their masters. You suggest we should get some experience between our masters and graduation degree? It's an important question. It will depend on your field, of course. And when I say lack experience, it goes 2 ways. Experience in the particular field, as well as experience, relevant experience of a particular amount. So just the way things are right now, if you are a computer science graduate, things are changing every 5 years. So you are at a very good stage if you are a new starter and you're just learning the technologies. It's not the same with a lot of other fields. So I guess the answer to that is it's field dependent. But the important keyword here is relevant experience. And getting relevant experience is going to be really difficult in India just because not a lot of companies are, or not a lot of experience from companies are recognized out in the US. So as it is, you have a very small group of companies that you can work for and have relevant experience. I don't know if that answers your question, right?
Jagrat, Shaili wants to know a little bit more about career fair that you spoke about. So,
Okay. So Bimal says, can I speak? Yes, you can speak, I guess, after I answer this question. Career fairs. So is there a specific question, or you just want me to give you an introduction of what happens?
a little more about career fair. That is what.
Okay, so career fairs, the way that works out here is you would have 2 days, 1 or 2 days, depending on what university you are going to, wherein a lot of companies would come in and introduce themselves. They will have people from different stages. So a fresher who was joined recently, a mid-level manager, and maybe an associate level person. So 2 years experience, 6 years experience, 10 years experience. And they would come and talk to you about their company, their culture, and all of that. There in career fair, there are 2 aspects. One, when they talk about it, they would give you seminars. So in the evening, you would find 10 different companies in 10 different classrooms talking to students. And there is, of course, pizza, your staple food, if you're coming to the US. And then there is as a part of career fair, there is essentially a fair. Companies will have a stall with their candidates, or I should say their employees present there, who would give you information about their company. So you make a connection with the people who have come there and keep on talking to them. Some of those would also do happy hours. You should go to those. Good networking. But again, you should play to your strengths. If you are not a person who drinks and enjoys going to a pub after hours, then you should play to your strength and talk to them when you are in the midst of the career fair. And about career fair, one last thing, we do have some interviews, or career fairs do have some interviews scheduled after that, depending on what company needs and whatnot. But more often than not, those are rare. One other point I would try to make here is it's different for sure from Indian career fairs or Indian job placements than this. You have 2 days, everybody is there. In placement, of course, you have different companies coming at different times.
Bimal wants to speak. Bimal, you can open your mic, unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, sir, am I audible?
You are. Hey, Bimal,
Yes.
how are you?
I'm good, sir. So as you talked about like research assistant or teaching assistant, those are the difficult tasks. So like I'm currently in 3rd year of my undergrad, and we know that some of the things help in building our profile strong, like some publishing a conference or research paper, or being a part of any organization as a student ambassador. So if I want to get placed as a teacher or teaching or research assistant, how should I set my priorities for now?
So you should do a bunch of things right now. You should figure out what course you want to go to, what program you want to go to, what teachers or professors are out there teaching that program, what are their research interests. You should look at those research interests. You should look at the coursework that they are pursuing, and you should develop those coursework. You should develop those skill set. So for example, if you are a statistics student, then you should look at professors in the statistics department, see what they are teaching and see what they are researching. You should develop, publish papers, research in those fields. One additional items that will pump up your chances is to reach out to them asking questions. A lot of people are not gonna respond, but then again, you should reach out to everybody. If you have 5 programs in mind, you should reach out to five faculties of those 5 universities and talk to them about your research. And if you have any smart questions to ask, you should do that. Does that answer your question, Bimal?
Yes. So, I should approach them from now on to do that.
Yes, and you should. Well, so 2 things to it. You can approach them, of course, and you should approach them, but you cannot ask them open-ended questions.
Yes.
When you're starting out, you would want to ask them very pointed, specific questions which are smart.
Sahil wants to know, Jagrat, would you be able to get enough work experience from the internship, or do you suggest that we get work experience between undergrad and masters? He is planning to do his bachelor's in USA and then of course masters also. So between bachelor's and masters, you should take some internship or he should be working. That's what his question is.
Right. So yes, it's a good question, and again, the answer is going to be field specific. But generally, you should get some experience before. If you are already in US, you should get some experience before you pursue your masters. That's a very broad answer. You really need to look at the specifics of the field and get to the bottom of it. I see something in the chat. Would you be able to get enough work experience from the internships? Oh, I think it's the same question.
Understand field, so should do internship right now or by undergrad?
No, for that I think Bharat will answer that question. Okay, Jagrat, any more questions?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
basically I'm working in Provision and it is a US-based company.
But
I'll be
loudly. Jagrat, can you hear him?
Yeah, Jagrat, can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, so I'm telling you. So, I'll be working in this company for 1 year. So 1 year of experience in this company, would it be enough or should I take it for 2 years?
Kushagra is our student. He is doing GRE with us, and he has got his job in Cognizant, and he will be doing job for a year. His question is whether he should be doing just 1 year job, and that will be enough, or should he be doing 2 years
Before coming to US?
before coming to USA?
So Cognizant is a recognized company here. You will find Cognizant offices here, and folks know the company. To that end, 1 year should be fine. And this again is also going to be very field specific. But generally speaking, if you have a year of experience, that's fine. You are in a good position.
Thank you.
Karan, Karan is asking, should I apply to a job even if I do not fulfill all of the requirements? Means.
Good question, Karan. Yes.
Clear. You understood?
I understood. The answer to that question is yes. You should apply to all the jobs. A lot of times what's going to happen is they would see your resume and they will be like, yeah, not for this job. But, oh, we have this another job. Let's get him interviewed for that. You should apply for all the jobs. Of course, so if you are a civil engineer, and in my case, if I'm a geotechnical engineer, I deal with foundations and tunnels and dams and whatnot. Me applying for an environmental job is useless. But as far as experience goes, if they are asking for 10 years and I have 3 years, I should apply. They are asking for masters in blah, and I have a very close cousin masters in a different program. I should apply. Good question, Karan.
I think okay, fine. So there are no thing I would like to tell everybody online, offline. LinkedIn is one thing that you should be working on, because we Manav Patel gave the seminar on Jagrat Jariwala is also emphasizing that I have seen that students are missing on. So what Jagrat emphasized is a very, very important thing, and please see to it that you do enough follow up there so that you land up a job. And yes, the one more thing that Jagrat emphasized that I want to tell all my students is working on your TOEFL and IELTS. I have seen a new trend now that people are not very serious about IELTS. They say they'll be able to crack it. I am sure the students who are hearing me, those who are offline, they are aware. I'm sure that they'll be able to crack. But then if you are getting 7, I'll be able to, if you take some training, we will be able to guide you for 8, which will be helpful for you in your TA and RA. So don't take risks with IELTS and TOEFL, and you should go ahead with some kind of help so that you get the required score in one go only, in one go, in one time only. So that is on. Thank you very much. Those who have joined online, all the students or offline students, I'm very happy that you have joined. Thank you, Jagrat, for this superb presentation where we learned a lot of things, where I'm sure students will keep in mind all the points that you have mentioned here, and they will have a fabulous career in USA. Thank you very much.
Best of luck, guys.
So we are ending the meeting here.